A breathless sense on that.
Just in time. Gurmagach Cahirlach, and thank you, Minister.
An eloquent one.
Thank you very much, Las Cahirlach, and thank you, Minister, for coming into the House. And like my colleagues, I would also pay tribute to Mary Fitzpatrick for all the work that she's put in on this issue. And she's tried to do it in a way that is collaborative with others, which is important. This motion, to me, a bit like when Senator Castles was speaking earlier, it's very personal to me. It's about part of the reason why I got involved in politics and about the important things for us in politics. So what are the important things that we can do as politicians? And for me, it's about creating the conditions for employment in our community, giving people access to education, and ensuring people have a roof over their head and that they can aspire to own their own home. And for me, that's part of the reason why I'm in Fianna Fáil. They're core values. For us in Fianna Fáil, being able to build housing, having people having access to affordable housing, that's really important. And I know, like Shane, when I grew up in Gorey, it was local authorities that built social and affordable estates in all of our communities. They really made a difference. And we're the strong believers in local government as well. And I find it very difficult for those of us who are in the political centre or on the centre-left to now be hearing these right-wing policies about abolishing property taxes, while at the same time taking large foreign donations. Those kind of right-wing policies have no place, I believe, in our housing or local government system. We've got to have, if we're going to get our local authorities to build housing, we have to have properly funded local government. I think that it's essential. The Constitution, I was listening to Senator Higgins earlier, and she's right about how the Constitution has been interpreted. I'm very proud of our Constitution. It was the first Constitution that was adopted by popular vote of any Constitution in the world. And there were lots of inherent rights contained within that Constitution for us as citizens. And if you think about it, it was in the 1930s in Western Europe, and our citizens voted for that document. And there were good reasons at the time as to why private property had to be protected. Because if you were living in Western Europe or anywhere in Europe during the 1930s, private property rights were not being respected. But we have now moved to a different circumstance. And I would disagree with Senator Crockwell around not having the aspiration around a constitutional right to housing, because he knows, as I do, around the protections that have been provided around education within our Constitution and how our Constitution has been used to guarantee educational rights, particularly for some of those who are the most vulnerable in our society. The Constitution is the most important document in our state, and therefore I believe to recognise the fact that there should be a roof over individuals' heads within that document is something that is particularly important. Senator Higgins was correct. I think it's been unfortunate about how there has been interpretation that effectively excludes the common goods over a long period. And we need to provide that necessary rebalancing. This is, as colleagues have said here, this is the greatest domestic challenge that we face, is about providing housing. And unlike others, it's not about some magic solution that we're going to click fingers, walk into a local authority chief executive and say, we're going to build lots of housing, while at the same time disparaging, not developers, as Senator Siri Carney said, builders. That's what they are. They're not big developers. Most of those, small firms around the country are just builders. And we're going to require a suite of measures, even though everyone hates that phrase, to address the challenge that we have. And that includes the two pieces of legislation we're dealing with, the Affordable Housing Bill, the Land Development Agency Bill. It includes addressing the costs that Paul spoke about, the underlying costs that are increasing housing. It includes alignment between the planning regulator and Board Pleanála and Irish Water. It needs all of those measures. It needs our local authorities to be properly funded. It needs our local authorities to be working with the private sector. And I don't know why people have such an objection to the private sector. Who is going to build these houses? It's going to be the builders that live in all of our communities, the builders who in turn will employ the subcontractors, the electricians, the brickies, the plumbers. Why is there such a real objection to engaging with the private sector? I just can't figure it out. We are not going to be able to achieve the supply that we all need unless we have the public sector and the private sector cooperating. This government knows about the challenge that we're going to face. This motion on its own is not going to suddenly solve our housing crisis. But it says something for us as a national parliament, that we put a belief in a right to housing into our constitution. And I think, and I don't believe in necessarily naming the date straight away, I think having that discussion, having a broader public conversation around the issue about the exact wording will be very useful. I strongly support the motion. It's personal to me, Alas Cearlach, and again, I commend the proposer for bringing it before the House.
Thank you.